Hey class, I just wanted to give you a little help and make it more clear what I'm hoping for with the assignment. I know it's a little late, but bear with me. So this is the assignment we started with the other day, but I'm going to go back to the beginning and show you all I'm looking for this week, okay? Because it's not much, and then there's a bunch of videos I'm hoping you'll watch too. But let's start with this. So I'll go back to the gallery. And the first step in assignment 1 was to launch an 11 by 17 by 300 DPI canvas and or launch a ready-made 11 by 17 by 300 DPI grid template provided by instructor. So let's do this simple one here. Here's the, I guess if you want to do it from scratch, here we see the width, and we're going to make, first of all, we're going to change it to inches down here. And then the width, we're going to make 17. Then I'm going to tap on the height. And that didn't work out well. That's the kind of thing that can happen. So I'll cancel. I'll go back and start again. So here we want to go with inches. It's already waiting for me to type in 17. And then I'm going to go to next and type in 11. Okay, so that's the horizontal 17 by 11. 300 DPI is good, so I'm going to go to create. Okay, now it says import the plan of existing casita conditions. So you can do that, or you can go back to that one we had worked on last week if you worked along with that. But let's do the import version. So I'm going to go up to the wrench, and I'm going to tap, and I'm going to go to add. I'm going to go to insert a file. Now, I'm assuming here that you have loaded the casita file to your iCloud. I'm here in my iCloud drive, and this is the key to everything, linking your iPad to iCloud Drive. So here, I don't know what you called yours, but I'm going to go to casita existing conditions. And there is that same file. The marching ants are working away, and the arrow transformation and move arrow is showing glowing. So I'm just going to tap on that, and I am out of that. Okay. So the next thing was layer 2, add layer of semi-opaque white trace. So here I go to my layers menu, and here you can see here's the first thing we imported. Now I go to the plus button and add layer 2, and I'm asking for you to add a layer of semi-opaque white trace. So let's go here and change the color to white, wherever you might keep your whites. And that's changed now. I'll tap it again so it goes away. And because you recall I am on a new layer 2 now, I will drag and drop this and let it go. Don't be worried because it is completely opaque now, but if I tap the N button, I can take the opacity back like this, okay? So I'm going to go about there so you can still see it. And now layer 3, the next instruction in the assignment is to add a layer 3 and use the Nico roll brush to sketch a loose casita plan with F, F, and E. So let's tap back on layer 2. That makes all of that go away. And I am going to, and by the way, that was, I tapped the N to make the opacity come up, and then I end the blending modes, and I tap the N to make it go away. Now I'm going to add layer 3. I hit the plus button up here, and I've asked you to use the Nico roll brush, but you can do anything you want with that. So let's go, and I will add the Nikki roll brush. I spelled it wrong. And I've got that now. I need to switch back to a color I'm going to see. So I'll use red. You can use any color you want, but I'll use red just for drama. And then I'll tap anywhere outside of the palette, the drop-down palette, to make the palette close. I'll come over here and adjust my Nicky roll brush to any size, and I'm just going to start, designing this this thing. And so, as we said, here's the entrance. No, it's not showing up. Let me see what's wrong. Oh, the opacity is turned all the way down. So I'll go up with the opacity. And I'm just going to start designing. So this is our front door. And I'm going to come in and, you have to hang your coat somewhere. And then you're going to be in this relatively small world. So I'm going to put the kitchen maybe up here with a peninsula. And I'll even reduce the opacity of layer 2 a little bit because it's still showing me a little too much. And I'll come back here and I'll say, well, there's going to be a bedroom in this corner and another bedroom in this corner, and they're going to need a way in. And I'm just being really, really loose here. And they'll probably have closets. Well, maybe they'll have closets between them. Now that's going to make the bedrooms even smaller, but we're not really here to design a great thing unless you want to. This is really about the tools. So let me go and use the eraser brush now, that's up here, and I'll get rid of some of this junk that I put here because I want to get a doorway in. And I'll go back to the Nicky roll brush and I'll make it smaller. And I'll say, okay, well, the closet's going to be here and the bedrooms are going to stop here. And then there has to be a bathroom and attached, and maybe that's this big. And one of the things we talked about in class was that you can also add in that scale that I gave you all. So to do that, well, maybe, I'm sorry. I'm going to stick with the lesson plan here. All I ask you to do is sketch a loose casita plan. So I've got a bedroom, say, and another bedroom, a bath, a kitchen, and let's make this the dining room. Let's say you come right into the dining room. It's a little weird, but it makes my job simpler. I'll put some chairs around that table, and let's say there's some other kind of storage here, and this is going to be my living room because that's more fun. So to get to my living room, I'm going to have maybe a piece of like a 2-person love seat there, and maybe another, it's too close, it's jammed up, maybe that. I'll erase this, and then the good old television will be here. And that's really all I'm asking you to do. So then layer 4, I'm going to have you add another layer to all of this. It's going to be white again. And I'm going to ask you to drag and drop it over like this. And then you recall we do this. And now I wanted you on layer 4, I wanted you to set the 2-dimensional drawing guide, then use pen to draft over that sketch to make uniform weight line only version. Okay, so here I am, and I have to add a layer over my tracing paper. So I'll add a layer 5. I'll switch back to the black pen. I'll go, excuse me, up to the technical pen, and I will set on layer 5, I'm going to set drawing assist. So to do that, I go back to the favorite wrench menu, and I go to the Canvas tab in the wrench menu. I go to Drawing Guide in the Actions or wrench menu, and that automatically creates the activates the Drawing Assist helper, and you'll see that here. I can turn off this grid if I want to. You recall under the drawing guide where I just activated it is the edit drawing guide, and here's where I can make those gridded lines thicker. I can make them more opaque. I can make them more or less thick. Now that would distract me very seriously. And if you want to get fancy, you can also, adjust this so that each of these squares equals 1 foot. But let's keep it simple. I don't really care about the squares in this case, so I'm going to go back here to Done, but I encourage you to check them out if you want to. And now, because I've set this all up in the Actions menu, because I've done that, when I go back up to Layer 5 and tap, I have a Drawing Assist option. So I'm going to tap that, and you will recall that Drawing Assist shows up now underneath the name of the layer. So I have black selected. I have my technical pen selected. I've lost something here that I'm not quite sure why. Oh, I know. The opacity of everything has made me lose the original image of the original plan way under there. So I'll go back to layer 2, and I will reduce the opacity of layer 2 until I can faintly see the original casita existing plan come back through. Then I'll tap layer 5 again to get back on that layer. And remember, the layer is active only when it's blue. But you can draw on an active layer way down here if you want. You don't have to move it to the top. But we'll be drawing on the top now. So we're in the top. It's assisted. We have the technical brush picked. And now, all I'm asking you to do is freehand draft your new plan. And I don't really care if it's dimensionally correct. I'm just looking for you. I see we're going to take that wall out. I'm just looking for you to get familiar with the tools. I don't even care if you have doors and things in the right place. You'll recall that if I just go ahead and complete these lines, I can always erase them later. So let me just keep going around and finishing lines, and without worrying that they're crossing each other. Because again, I just want you, there was that 2-finger tap, by the way, remember that? 2-finger tap to make a thing go backwards. 3-finger tap. 3-finger tap to make it come back. Watch up here. Now it's back. So finish drafting this up, and then I'll be able to see you'll have experience doing this, and I'll be able to see your design. Although, again, I promise we're not going to critique each other's designs. This is just about the tools. So here are the back-to-back closets that I wanted to put in. At the same time, I definitely want to encourage anyone who wants to make a carefully considered and dimensioned plan to please go ahead and do that. But I don't want you to stay awake night this next couple of days worrying that you haven't finished the assignment. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to go to layer 5, where I ask you to use soft brushes, selection, and erase tools to add color, tone, and texture. So let's see what we do with that. What I'm leaving out of that description is I've essentially asked you, let's add a new layer. I'm going to call layer 5 the kind of walls layer, the part of your design that involves walls. And up here, remember, I'm down here, I'm going to make the keyboard go away, but recall that up here, if you tap the layer, you'll see the option to rename the layer. And there you see Drawing Assist has been activated. So let's go back here. I'm going to add a layer just for the furniture. And I'm going to do the furniture freehand because I am getting a little bit lazy already. And here's my furniture. And the reason I'm doing this, actually even better, I'm going to show you. Notice that I have not activated Drawing Assist. It's just still enabled for freehand. But I can show you and remind you again of the quick line feature, which is that I put my pen down, I pull a line. It can be I pull a line, it can be like a wiggly line, but as long as I hold the pen down at the end of the stroke, it'll become one of these straight lines. So now the grid is helping me quite a bit because I'm making these lines parallel to the grid. So let's start with, I'm only going to do the dining room table. This even works, check this out, this even works with a slight curve. So here's my seat at the end of the dining room table. Instead of drawing like this, I'm going to make a quick little arc here and then hold the pen the same way and watch what happens. That arc itself is turned into one of these quick lines, okay? So now I can make a more convincing chair. I'll do that freehand. And I'll put 2 chairs over here. Again, a quick arc like that. And then I can still adjust that. As long as I hold the pen tip down, I can still adjust that. And I'll do this again, another quick arc. And do that again. Now I'm going to stop there. Well, no, first I'm going to put a salad bowl on the table, okay? But I'll stop there because the next thing I asked you to do on layer 5, even though we're well beyond layer 5, is to use soft brushes, the selection and erase tools, etc. to add color, tone, and texture. So I'm going to go back underneath the walls because I don't want the color to mess up. I don't want color to obscure the lines that we've drawn. So I'm going to go back to the tracing layer 4. I'm going to add a new layer, and I am going to use the so-called selection tool to quickly give this dining room table some tone. And I'm going to start in the rectangular selection tool. Again, selection tool up here. Start with a rectangular selection tool and pull the tool out like that. Then I'll find a gray color, maybe that one. It can be any gray at all, don't worry. And I will grab the color and bring it over and drop it into there, okay? Now, that's going to be a little dark, or let's say that it's dark. I tap out of the selection tool. Let's say that that's dark. I'm going to go up to the adjustments button. I'm going to go to the hue, saturation, and brightness button and leave it as is. And down here, I'm going to make this gray brighter, okay? And the great advantage of this is that I'm making the color brighter, but I'm still keeping the colors solid. And you'll see soon, you'll see why that's important. But I'm going to adjust the color. And let's say that I even notice that it's a little bit too much of a blue violet, or there's a slight violet color. I can also come down to saturation and run that all the way back. So now I'm sure I'm in completely black and white. And I am going to do something now where I'll take that same color, or maybe a darker color. So I'll take that same color, here's another color, and I'll go back to my selection menu up here, tap it. I am still on this shade and shadow color layer underneath these two drafted layers. And I'm going to go back to the selection tool. I'm going to pull up the freehand tool, and I'm going to just trace quickly around and let go. Oh, I can't just let go. I'm going to tap and trace around, and then I can tap the last connection by lifting my pen. But you'll notice that if I lift my pen by accident, the selection tool is still active, the marching ants. So I can pick it up again, come over here and tap, and now I have the 3 chairs selected and ready to color in. Now I go back to my layers menu, and I'm going to show you another skill I want you to have, which is to tap the layers menu and bring up fill layer. And now I'm going to tap fill layer. Now I can no longer alter the colors independently because they're now on the same layer. But I can, again, I'm in the adjustments menu. I can make, I'm going to go to hue, saturation, brightness. I can make all of them together brighter or all of them darker, okay? So that's that. And then the last thing I'm going to, this is extra credit because it's already been a while, but the last thing I'm going to ask you to do is throw some shadow under these pieces of furniture, what we would call a drop shadow. So what I'll do is I'll go back into the layers menu. I will make sure I've got the color layer highlighted, and I'm going to do a little action where I tap and swipe to the left. Tap and swipe to the left, okay? And when I do that, I see an option to duplicate. So now I tap the duplicate option, and now, because it's the layer below, I have a shadow layer, what I can use as a shadow layer. And the way I will do that is I will come back to the, I forget what that's called, the adjustments or transform or move the arrow menu. And you can see that all of them have been highlighted, but it's actually the layer underneath that's been highlighted. So I'll go back and I will activate that. And now, if I imagine my light source coming from the top and going down from top left to lower right, I can move that shadow layer down just to give this plan some fun. And if you have done it, if you've gone all the way with the assignment, then each piece of your furniture, the dining room table, the kitchen counters, the living room furniture, the beds in the bedroom, you will now have them filled in on the upper layer, and you will also have the shadow layer below. Now that looks weird. So we did not cover this in class, but I am going to ask you to activate that lower shadow layer, then go back to the adjustments menu, go to the hue, saturation, and brightness tab. I'm going to ask you to go to brightness and make it completely dark at first, okay? So that eliminates all of the color. It is completely dark, and you are welcome to leave it there. Now, it's not as simple as just going back if your shadow is too dark. What I want you to do is leave it at its full darkness, tap out of the adjustments menu. Now what that does is it says to this layer, I'm done playing with those colors. I want them black because I'm going to do something new with them. And now while you're still in that layer, I want you to go back to the adjustments menu. Go to hue, saturation, and brightness again, and we'll use this so often. And now if I lighten it, you can see there is no longer a difference between the shadow of the table and the shadow of the chairs. That now it's just a perfectly uniform shadow that really is making everything pop. And when you get to this point in your project, it should be pretty fun when you're now looking at all these different things, all this furniture, the beds, the bedside tables, the bathroom fixtures. And when you're looking at it like this, you can even go back in and decide, well, maybe I want the entire floor plan to have a color so it pops out against the background. So I'll go back to the layer under what we've done so far. I'll tap layer 4. I'll add a new layer, and with my newfound expertise, well, I will add a very light gray, although it doesn't matter because I can change it later, but I'll go for a light gray. I'll come back to the selection menu and go to rectangular selection, and I will pull a rectangular selection across this entire plan, and then I will drop that gray color in, okay? And now I have a little bit of context for my furniture shadow, my furniture and my shadows, although I've also gotten rid of the underlying drawing, the references. So to see that, I could come back in here. This is that gray rectangle I just made. I could come back and reduce the opacity of that layer, and that's not a bad idea. So let's stick with that. Now, what I wanted to show you, though, was that the color of the table and the color of the chairs are a little close to each other graphically, depending on your taste. So I'm going to stay in that upper color, the color of the table and chairs, and I'm going to go back to my adjustments menu, back to back to hue, saturation, and brightness. I'm going to tap that, and I'm going to make these brighter. So let's see what happens. Here's my brightness slider down below. I'm going to make this brighter, and now it's really popping more effectively against that shadow. And remember, the 2-finger quick pinch takes me back to the size that I want. So I go like boom, and I'm back to the original size, okay? And remember, let's go back to the walls layer. If I want to, I can take an eraser. I can go, let's make it the flat brush this time. And I'm going to double check. I'm in Drawing Assist, so even the eraser is going to conform to the strict 90-degree pathways of Drawing Assist, but I'll keep it there for now. I'll come over here and I'll adjust the size of my eraser. And I'm going to remember to take out what will later become doors, okay? So I'll have a door to my bathroom. I'll have a door to my storage. I'll have a door to this closet. I can also do this and let go. That's the remarkable thing about Drawing Assist. And I'll have a door to the outside. And then I can even remember that I want some windows. Actually, let's do them a different way. But we're definitely into just the last bit of cleanup now. I'm back to my brush library. I'm back in the technical pen. And I want to close up some of these lines. I know that I'm still in Drawing Assist. I'm back in my technical pen. And now I'm just going to, well, that's funny. I've got the wrong color selected, so I'll go back to black. And I'll just finish up my lines. And again, you don't have to do this. By this time, you will have had a lot of practice at the things I'm asking you to do. And we can have a good time looking at everybody's quick ideas. But that's basically it, okay? So that's the assignment I'm asking for. And because it's been chaotic, you can ignore assignment number 2 if you want to. Anyone is welcome to do it if they want, but don't worry about that. And that is the overview of the skills I'm asking you to demonstrate this week using either Procreate or Morpholio Trace, but it's fine if you stay just in Procreate. Last thing I'll say is, as a general announcement, that I uploaded a ton of tutorials to the Canvas page. So just go to your videos tab in the Canvas platform, and you will see all of the recordings. The recording of last week's class, which is really boring, and you'll see all the new playlists that I uploaded, which will help you get really good at Procreate at your own pace. And we can also refer to them as we're developing our skills. Thanks, everybody, and I will see you on Wednesday.